Hey Leah, hope you've got some amazing plans for Easter. Hey, thanks for all the amazing work you've been doing. We're so happy with the car. The signs are going to look great. The renders you've done are amazing. And we were just wondering if you could help us out with one more thing, please. If you can slot us in on your very busy schedule in the next 6 months. Okay, so the biggest problem we have is people understanding the process, right? People come in and they have a house that might seem simple to them, but it's actually really complex, maybe because the land's complicated. There's lots of consultation required with councils and iwis and that kind of stuff, even for just a simple, classic builders type build. And they can't understand why a classic builders build is in the lakes takes 3 months to get through council, yet their 2-bedroom on the back of their farm takes 7 months to get through council. So I think it's really important, and the issue's not coming, we've noticed, from our end. What happens is when we do the plans and we give them to the salespeople, because we contract to a bunch of different group home builders, we give them to the salespeople and then they aren't equipped or don't understand the process themselves, and so they can't explain it to the client very well. So what we wanted to do is document the APEC process, create a really nice workflow for that, diagram for that, and also stylize a letter. Now this here, this is the basic cycle. Very pretty. I did it myself. I know I should have been a graphic designer. You're probably vomiting at your desk right now. It's done in Word. Yep, all by myself, if you couldn't tell. So what happens is, first, so architecture's me. It'd be helpful if I spelt that right. I'm sure you can spell it right for me. Planning, engineering and compliance. So architecture, preliminary concept. So we do up a base preliminary concept, not always, but a lot of the time. Then it goes to surveying and geotechnical engineering. That should actually be there coming across. Surveying, geotechnical engineering, back to us for the scheme plan. So the scheme plan is kind of documenting the land itself, and then we can build a building on top of that, because a building has space in 3D, takes up volume, and the code's written in such a way that there's volume based on those, like there's a daylighting, overshadowing, all sorts of stuff like that we have to take into account, and we can't work that stuff out until we have this information here. So obviously we do the scheme plan, which is like a really comprehensive concept, gets sent back to the client, they review it, lots of changes, the builder generally provides a price once they've approved it. The client approves that price, and then we move on to, so basically we've got a scheme plan completed, it's been reviewed by the client, it's been priced, the client's approved it. We've gone to BTL request, which is buildable truss layout. So we sent it off to get the framing and truss detailed out. Then it comes back to us, then we do our preliminary set of drawings. Then it's sent off to the project specific consultants. That might be a geotech engineer, might be a structural engineer, might be an acoustics engineer, maybe an OSET designer, maybe a fire engineer, like lots of those different people. And then that comes back to the develop. Oh yeah, so we'll go back and forth with them quite a bit. Then once they're done, hopefully you can make this make a little bit more sense. We'll do our second stage of develop design. We'll send it out for the geotechnical engineering reviews. They'll sign it off, and then they'll send it back to us. Then we can compile our project documentation. Then we're able to issue a building consent documents for the clients to review. They review them, sign them off, sign the agent form. That goes to council. Council review them. There's a vetting process. Then they accept them. Then they begin processing them. Yes, I know. Then the RFIs are issued. The RFIs are reviewed. The RFIs are back in for processing. This RFI review cycle can happen 6, 8, 10 times, depending on the complexity of the project. The RFI is processed and the building consent's issued. Now, in between all of that, you also have planning. So at this stage over here, we would generally begin dealing with affected persons and developer sign-off. Also, process completing a resource consent if it's needed. But that's all kind of separate to the other three. It's only there really in order to make people aware that that exists. So yeah, so that's the APEC cycle, and what we want to do is create a really nice workflow, a nice professional document with the drawing room on it that says, hey, this is where you're at, and then I can literally just pop a little arrow there and say, hey, you're here, you've got all of this to go, so please don't expect it to come out next week. Or you're here, so yay, you've only got to sign them off and then we can put them in for council. Or we're waiting over here and there's going to be lots of back and forth. So there's a really visual thing. And I'm hoping with this, if I educate the salespeople in those brands about this and give them the tools, maybe they can educate the customers about it. And so the old fella on his farm who wants to build a 2-story mansion isn't getting pissed off when it's been in council for 4 months. Because his mate who's building a single-story classic in the lakes is, starting 6 weeks after he's put it in. So, all right, so that's number 1. Number 2, it goes on from that. When we do our scheme plan, or potentially our concept plan, depending on the project, we would like to be able to issue a letter in the name of the builder. So, okay, so this is, don't laugh, again, did it myself, I bet you can't tell. Here's the letter. I'll send you a copy of this in A3. By using ArchiCAD, so there's a lot of things that are amazing about ArchiCAD. This is the CAD software that we use in order to create the 3Ds of the buildings and do our documentation. One of the powerful things about it is its ability to, oops, sorry, wrong key. So all of this information that I put in here is all spread and updated through a document automatically, as well as any images. So like this one here, so when I start a new job, I literally drag in whichever brand I'm working for, I drag their details in and I drag their logo in, and like here, this isn't all of them, this is just the key ones that I work for, because otherwise the file gets too big, obviously I have them all in there. So I drag that in there. Now, if I go back to the letter, you'll notice it's updated. It never works when you're trying to show someone. Just notice that. So there we go. So now their logo's on there. The job number shows, all the client details are all automatically in here. And so they populate all through. So even the engineers, I even fill out their documents for them, all of my certificates, like literally every single document that has the client's name on it is filled out through ArchiCAD automatically. So to be able to have the letter in here is really important to us. And that's the same down here. So, like kind regards, it'll say, Michael Castle, the drawing room. Or if I'm handing it off to, say, Stroud Homes, it'll say Mark, can't remember his last name, Stroud Homes Tauranga. Or Murray at Skyline, Murray, or the Dwelling Co, or whatever, that'll all be in there. The description of the project. Now, low complexity, medium complexity, high complexity, depending on what their job is. I was thinking I was going to do something like this, but please, you change it around and tell me what I should be doing, because you're the boss, to be honest. There we go. So it puts a line through there. I would make the line prettier, but I'm going to wait for your advice on what I do there. And a little tick saying we estimate your project is here. It's low complexity. Hey, it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks to submission to council. That's what we estimate. And so, and then so that when customers come up to a medium complexity, hey, it's going to be 16 to 48 weeks. 48 weeks is 9 months. You could be 9 months waiting to get into council. Why is that? Can we have a discussion about that? Let's deal with that now, early on in the project, so they're not stuck thinking this, and we're all stuck thinking this, and nobody's communicating correctly with them. Now, what I want to do is take this page here and that APEC cycle in A3. What is there? Let's pretend like it. And combine them so that we have the letter and then we have the APEC cycle here, so that the two are communicating, creating an effective communication package for the salespeople to go out and sell with, and give people a good expectation of what they should receive as far as timing goes. because we're doing it in ArchiCAD, what I need to do is once we settle on a design, I need you to break it all up into its individual components. Any graphics, sorry, broken up to its individual components, so I can then put them into ArchiCAD. They'll just go in as images, so that's all vectors, but they'll go in as images or vectors, whichever you choose to send me. And then I'll just layer them. Literally, it's just a layering program, so I can just change the layer. That's it. I can't do much more than that. But yeah, so we'll work that out as we go. So hopefully that makes sense. It doesn't have to be the APEC one, this here. If you think it's better to have one page that's like got the drawing room on it and looks really professional and it's just an A4, that's fantastic. And then if you want to do a different, more stylized one for this page, I'm very happy to do that. Change this page up as much as you want. I'm really happy for you just to go for it. We're not set on anything. We want it to look professional, and that's about it. We want it to be a tool to help engage in conversation about realistically what timeframes are people expecting. That's all we want it to do. It just gives some people a bit of a better understanding of the process, and also just realize that it's not the architect. You know, like I only touch it 1, 2, not even there, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 times. I might only touch the plan 6 times. There's all of this other stuff going on. So when there's a delay, it's generally not my fault. It's very, very rarely. Normally it's around here or around here. So yeah, all right. Let me know how you get on. Any questions? You know where I work. Otherwise, let's be honest, you'll probably just ask Jo because she's got all the answers. Have a good day. See ya.